prior to close probably brings a little bit of pressure due to the fact that the corporate structure in which our end user operates doesn't really allocate for a timeline that is conducive to the construction period and the potential move-in date. So right,
are you saying that this developer would build this building without a lease?
I'm not going to speak for them.
So if they're not going to build it without a lease, why would this delay anything?
If they're going to build it and lease it, I guess, what's your question?
I see that.
I think you're trying to indicate that putting a covenant or a condition into this resolution would somehow delay this project or cause risk to this project. However, that was why I asked, do you think that this person who is developing it, or this team of people, this company, is going to build this building without a contract with the end user?
I don't want to speculate.
So we have to say no then.
I don't think that's fair default.
Okay.
Well, so how can...
So let's just take this out. So you think that this company is just going to start building this building with no end user? You think it's a spec building?
No.
Okay, so they are waiting for this end user to sign a lease to build the building.
They are waiting on an end user to lease the building, correct?
A specific end user.
Yes.
Okay. And that end user will have a contract, a lease with them before they would begin construction.
I don't know. I don't know their business construct.
Okay.
They may feel more comfortable. So if we're going to run scenarios, they may feel comfortable in starting that construction, knowing that the lease is either in place, not signed.
Could I ask one more question on the addendum?
Yes, ma'am.
Who drew that language up?
We did, our attorney.
Okay, and that paragraph 8.01, where's that referencing? Just so I'm clear that I understand what I'm reading.
Yep. So the paragraph 8.1 comes from the original protected covenants that was drafted for the industrial park.
Oh, okay, the ones that were recorded.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have it.
I got
Yeah.
you.
So,
Yes.
so it's from my understanding, interpretation, and Miriam's here. So is that it's a merger of the language that you had requested as well as language
No,
in the
that's
protected.
fine. I just couldn't figure out where the 8.01 was coming from.
Yeah, that's the repurchase option in the covenants, which is 36 months.
Jake, have you seen this addendum 2 here where it says the transaction shall not close until the less prospective identified in paragraph 16 of the unredacted purchase agreement is fully bound by a written lease agreement as described? Have you seen this?
Yes.
And do you think this is a deal killer for our upcoming situation here?
I think it could be. So yeah, I mean, I think that in good faith.
Is there anything that's not?
Right, well, and Josh, there's nothing certain in life, okay?
That's right.
What we've done is we presented a great project with a great end user, with a great developer.
I didn't disagree with them on any of that.
And I'm not saying you were, but what I'm saying is based upon the information we have, in good faith of voting for this project and recommending it for the Redevelopment Commission's approval of what we have negotiated is good. Doesn't mean that it can't change. It doesn't mean that there are exceptions to what can happen. But based upon the parameters we have right now, we're sitting in a really good position to support this project and get it moving forward.
So I mean, can you just say that you don't want anything? I mean, that's what you want. You want full authority. You don't want this body to recommend anything. Because anything is putting risk into the project.
You're putting words into my mouth.
Well, everything that we have said to you, you're saying that brings risk to a project I'm not in favor of. So, and I asked you, is there anything that would not bring risk? And you said no. So it sounds like what you say is you want full carte blanche authority and we just need to sign off on whatever you risk.
That's not what I'm saying.
So tell me what can de-risk the project from our perspective so that what the developer says is going to get done actually gets done by contract, not just we need to take his word for it because he's a nice guy.
So what's your question?
That was the question.
Could you repeat?
What can we do to de-risk the project from the RDC's perspective so that the project that was delivered to us, that you sat here and put big pretty pictures on the desk,
Mhm.
is that, and that end user is the end user and the project by contract.
So what can the RDC do to de-risk this project?
What will you say this is appropriate to get that outcome? Other than, they're nice guys, they're gonna do it.
Right, well, and we have tons of protections in this. This thing is so overregulated with the design covenants, the design committee's review, the redevelopment commission's approval, other than having the lease in hand, which is a talking point, and we're discussing it now. I cannot completely de-risk a project for you, Josh. I cannot do that.
All I'm saying, I'm not saying de-risk it in that it's gonna get done. I'm saying that what they say they will do. And that's why we have contracts, so people do what they say they do.
Right. And if we could hammer that down and the developer be okay with those discussions, then that would be the case. But as we sit now, what we negotiated with the developer is exactly where they want to be. And that's where the end user wants them to be. So not just the developer in
So
themselves.
what are we, all we're holding them to is what they said they would do. I mean, we're not changing the deal at all, are we? I mean, I'll ask
Yeah.
you, are we changing the
Yeah,
deal?
so we've got to hash out exactly what you're referring to. So the only thing that is worth discussing, and we're discussing it now, and Michelle's concern is that the lease be done. And talking with the developer, due to the corporate construction of the end user, it's problematic to wait to have the lease done.
Why?
I think, do they want to start construction prior to having a lease? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I can ask them that question.
Josh, may I add something?
Sure, absolutely.
I've had conversations with both the developer and the end user, and they are both #1 sterling business people. We can't get delivered to us here in Carroll County, I don't think, a better situation than with these two entities. To me, our choice is, do we want to have development or do we want to have grass growing out there? And my answer is, I want jobs out there. And I want something that we can collect property tax on out there. So in reading through this, I see that it's been 9 years that it's been sitting in grass out there right now. I know that once we get the ball rolling of somebody seeing these buildings coming out of the ground, and there's going to be some excitement about maybe I ought to get a lot there. I mean, those who have been on the periphery just thinking about maybe doing something are going to realize that this ground's going to be eaten up pretty quick if they don't get in there. I've thought about Michelle's thing the last Thursday of does this set a precedent for price, I think was your problem. And I think we're in such a volatile time right now that price isn't guaranteed on anything. I mean, what's the price of gas going to be next week? I don't know. What's the price of land going to be? What's the interest rate going to be? I don't know. Everything's going to be changing. So I think that anybody who's willing to risk, like these two entities are, know that it's volatile, and anybody else who's coming in know that the price, they're going to have to negotiate their own price to get it done. I'm not concerned about that. I'm not, the developer has made substantial development, has put a lot of money into Carroll County already. He has no interest in doing anything shoddy or not doing it right. He wants to do the next one too, and the next one after that. He's not going to come in here and lowball this thing and put up a bunch of junk. He's going to be wanting something there that he's proud of, and that everybody else is proud of, and that we want to continue working with him, because he sees Carroll County as a real opportunity for development coming. and he's gonna hang in there with this. The end user has made vast investments in Carroll County. They have been a wonderful Carroll County citizen for many years. And there's no reason to think that they're not gonna continue to be that #1 class entity in the county. So with that, I'd say, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we adopt Resolution 2023, whatever that,
Right, if we just put to that, for working purposes, what's today's date, 26?
What-
Today's date. Resolution 2023-926, just to kind of put a number on it for reference, 926, please, thank you.
that is my motion.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 926. Is that as presented?
Right now it is, yeah.
Okay. So I don't have a problem with the language that is presented. I would like to see a motion for amendment to add language to the existing contract. And I appreciate you making a motion because we probably shouldn't have been discussing all this without a motion, but it was a very long discussion without a motion. So I appreciate it being put on the floor formally.
I'd like to call for a vote. The motion that he.
So are you calling for question?
I think he's got a motion, he's got a motion to amend that hasn't been seconded yet on the floor.
I have a second by Paul.
I didn't hear you.
Paul seconded the motion.
Oh, okay, thank you. So there's a motion, a second to amend?
No.
Did you
Excuse
move to
me.
amend?
I did not move to amend. There was
My
a,
apologies. I thought you said you
I
moved
would
to
like to
amend.
see a motion. I did not make a motion.
So we have a motion and a second on the principal motion to approve 2023-926.
I would move to amend to include the escrow closing.
So I'm going to, just because of my orders, Councilman Ryder called for question, so.
Sorry.
So I will entertain, so the call for question stops debate. Is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
So that's a motion that we have to vote on before we can entertain anything else. So all those in favor of ending debate signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Aye. Motion fails. So Michelle, please go ahead.
I would just move to amend it the way Eric had suggested last week, which would include the either escrow closing or lease agreement signed. I personally, if you can find a title company to do the escrow closing, maybe that makes the end user feel better and the developer. It doesn't matter to me which way, because frankly, if he's committed to the project and if the company's committed to the project, they shouldn't have an issue with that.
All right, if you want to do an escrow, I'm going to suggest language, because I think we need to have specific language if we're going to even discuss it. And so my suggestion is the transaction shall be escrowed. Give me 1 second here. The transaction will be escrowed until the prospective tenant identified in paragraph 16 of the unredacted purchase agreement is fully bound by a written lease agreement as described in such paragraph 16. The current closing date of January 1, 2024 may be extended no more than 60 days thereafter unless otherwise agreed in writing by the parties. And then upon failure to close by the extended deadline, the transaction shall be rescinded. Which again, I think is important to have that so that people know we've got to close this thing. Otherwise, it just can linger. So that's my
And if
suggestion.
everybody's moving forward, I am all in favor of this business and their projected possible new business, 150%. But these are easy things. Like, if they're committed, these are easy things. These aren't not easy things.
And so the language that I just read, is that acceptable to you as your motion?
Yes.
Do I need to restate that for anyone? So that's your motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. There was a motion on a second to add the language to Resolution 2023-926 as stated by Mr. Burns. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Could we have was that a unanimous vote?
It was unanimous. Well, same sign, or opposed, same sign? Yeah, no opposition, motion carries.
Thank you. And so, as I understand it, we now have a motion on the floor that's been amended to put in the escrow language, and otherwise it's the same as the motion that you have printed in front of you.
So now we have an amended resolution 926 with the language presented by council. So I will state again for the record, I could not be any more in favor of this project. Like, everything about it is what we're trying to do. The only thing that this body is taking into consideration is that what is said to be done is what actually gets done. And I think that is important, and then the reason that we're doing all this. I personally think that it is important to put into this resolution an amendment to make sure that the building that they said they were going to build is the building that gets built. So that's my personal feeling. So if anybody else wants to make that motion, I will entertain it. If not, I will take that as a sign that I'm the minority opinion on that, and we can move on from there.
Jake, if I may, based on the covenant about the design review approval, if the approval has currently been given based on the initial design that was presented to us by the EDC, or is that still pending?
So no designs have been approved by the Economic Development Corporation.
So before if major reductions in quality of the building or whatever are made, the EDC still, as part of their responsibility, have to approve that change.
It wouldn't be changes. We would have to approve what was presented.
The design.
So I think what you're trying to ask is what we've been presented, based upon what we approved, we will know if there's fundamental differences in what was originally designed and engineered based upon what we get when state release plans go and the design review committee gets those plans. So yes.
So until the design and review committee approves the plans, they can still push to get closer to what's been presented, right?
I don't understand what you're saying.
The design review committee has the final say, is what I'm trying to say, I think.
They have to approve the plans. So if they're trying to cheapen the building too much, it would still give them,
I understand what you're saying.
and that's, is us having to trust in.
Well, but and the committee's choice is not whether they like the building or what they said is what they brought to them. That committee's responsibility is, does it meet the covenants? And I will say right now that either of the building designs, which I was told about, the one that is materially less or the one that is materially more, both meet the guidelines of the covenants of the business park. And I think they would both be okay. The difference, from my opinion, is you're taking $60,000 and just giving it to the developer because they don't need that incentive to make the project work with a different construction method. So that's my concern.
To answer your question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so, like, does anyone want to make a motion regarding the building being built, being the building that was presented to us? All right, then.
Motion.
Excuse me.
So what else do we need to talk about today?
That's what I was just going to ask.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second with the amended resolution 926. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Couple questions. So the amended agreement would be, the original language which states 1 year of substantial construction. And then the amended was the language in which escrow would be involved into closing to ensure that the lease has been executed prior to closing. Is that the, or at least that's the
There'll be an
intent?
escrow.
That's
There will
the
be
intent.
There'll be a closing placed in escrow until that lease is identified, then
Okay.
the
Just want-
escrow can
just want-
close with no further action.
Okay, just want to be able to clearly express that to the developer and make sure that that obviously is in jive.
And that's their end game anyhow. So
Correct.
it
Correct.
shouldn't be, yeah, it shouldn't be distracting to them because that's the end game.
I tell you that what I believe that they're running up against is the due time for the end user to be moved in. They have a date, they have to be moved in. So back to the chairman's questions of like speculative and not having a lease. I don't know what that pathway looks like. I don't have clarity on that. I'm sure they do. But yeah, the end goal is that the lease is in place to pay the bills. And if there's a certainty and they're comfortable with us having that certainty of having the lease in place and they can begin construction, still meet the timelines of the end user, then we all should be well and comfortable with it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's as fair as can be when it
And
comes
we
to.
want to encourage them to keep moving as quickly as possible on their
That-
next project as well,
that-
so.
Yeah, yes. And that's stated in the MOU, so yes, you're right, Michelle.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of resolution 2023-926 as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
So the addendum to the purchase agreement will have to be,
That'll be changed too,
Changed
that's
by
not our
the-
document, but that'll be changed, the addendum will be changed as per the resolution that was passed. Then we don't have to approve that.
all right. So is there any other business that we need?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Yeah, yes.
Yes,
We have that second resolution.
well, it's up to you, whether you want to go forward, he said we weren't sure we were
Okay,
going to go
sure.
forward. so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
What,
It was on the other solo lot that came up the other day. It was not subject to disclosure, as I recall.
We have till October 20th to close on that, so I'll bring that before the commission prior to,
our meeting is on the 19th.
we'll bring it prior to.
Oh, you want a special meeting for that one?
I'll have to talk to the purchaser to see what their schedule looks like. So,
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
So on that, yeah, maybe not whether it's during this meeting on this, but I think I just had questions. It talks about conditions to close. I'm not sure there are conditions to close unless there are inspections. I don't think there are inspections. It
on
talks
this one,
about, yeah.
this is the other law.
This is the other deal. And I just had these questions when I looked through it. First of all, I wasn't seeing inspections. It talks about that inspections are a condition to close. And since there are no inspections, I suppose you could answer by saying we have no conditions to close. I just wanted to make sure I knew if there were any conditions to close. And I didn't see them. And I looked through it.
Yes.
As far as I know.
Okay,
But
that's fine.
This lot is ready
It's
for
fine.
Franklin.
Yeah.
And that's, and we have never talked about
Which?
having negotiations because this is showing us
The amendment made to it today.
No inspections at all. Gotcha. There was something about the survey, which is fine. It seems
We got that.
silly.
We got
I can't
that.
imagine why they need a survey.
But
Well,
at the time,
it,
they got,
Oh.
and lots.
Okay.
Oh, okay, okay.
All right, cool.